The blade at my throat was still warm from my father's blood. I pushed it away and stood tall, even though my legs wanted to give up. Smoke filled the throne room of my home world. The sky outside had turned red from fires that would burn for weeks. My father, the emperor of the Kethrix people, lay on the cold stone floor. His eyes stared at the broken ceiling above us. He would never speak to me again. My name is Valera. I was 19 years old on the day my world ended. I knelt beside my father and touched his silver face. My people have skin the color of moonlight and hair like dark rivers. We are tall, taller than most races in the galaxy, and we are born to fight. My father had trained me since I could walk. He had given me the finest teachers, the sharpest blades, and the strongest ships. He said one day I would lead our people into peace. Peace, the word tasted like poison in my mouth now. Princess, a voice behind me. It was Commander Threx, my second in command. His face was pale and his armor was cracked from battle. The humans have retreated, but they will come back. They always come back. The humans. That word made my hands shake with rage. For 3 years our scouts had watched the humans spread through the stars. They were small creatures, weak by our standards, with short lives and strange customs. My father had offered them peace. He had offered them trade. He had even offered them protection under our great empire. They had refused every offer. And now, on this terrible day, they had sent their ships to our home world. They had broken through our defenses. They had struck at the heart of our palace. They had taken my father from me. I stood up slowly. The ancient blade of my family, Shavil, felt heavy in my hand. It had been forged 1,000 years ago by the first emperor of the Kethrix. It had never known defeat. "Bring me the council," I said. My voice did not shake. I would not let it shake. Within the hour, the council gathered in what remained of the great hall. Lord Vorthak stood at the head of them. He was my father's oldest advisor, a tall man with sharp eyes and a silver beard that reached to his chest. He bowed to me, and the others followed. "Princess Valera," Vorthak said, "the throne belongs to you now. What are your orders?" I looked at each of them. Old warriors, wise scholars, proud leaders of a proud people. They had served my father for longer than I had been alive. Now they looked to me for answers. I raised Shavil above my head. The blade caught the red light of the burning sky. "I swear the oath of Talvorin," I said. Gasps filled the hall. The oath of Talvorin was our deepest promise. It was a blood pact that could not be broken. To break it meant death. My father had sworn it only once in his life, long ago, to protect his own father. "I swear on the blood of my father," I continued, "on the honor of my ancestors, on the stars that watch us all, that I will hunt down every human in the galaxy. I will burn their worlds. I will end their species. I will not rest until the last of them is gone from the stars forever." The council bowed. Vorthak smiled a thin smile. "The fleet is yours, princess." I walked out of the hall with my heart burning like the sky above me. 3 weeks later, I stood on the command deck of my flagship, the Crimson Sovereign. It was the largest warship ever built by my people, a dark mountain of steel and fire that stretched for miles through the empty space. 400 warships followed behind me. My fleet was the greatest force my empire had ever sent to war. Through the great window, I watched the stars slide past us. Somewhere ahead, in the dark between worlds, the humans waited. "Princess," said Nissa beside me. She was my shield sister, the warrior who had trained with me since childhood. Her hair was the color of silver fire, and her eyes were kind even when she carried a blade. "The first human colony is within range. It is called Kepler 442, a farming world, mostly civilians." "Mostly," I said. Nissa did not answer. She knew me well enough to hear the question in my voice. "Civilians build the ships that attack us," I said. "Civilians grow the food that feeds their soldiers. Civilians raise the children who will one day become soldiers themselves. There are no innocent humans, Nissa. My father believed there might be. He was wrong, and it cost him his life." I gave the order. The Crimson Sovereign turned its great guns toward the small blue world below us. The humans on the surface would not even see us before the first strike hit. They would not have time to run. They would not have time to call for help. As the guns powered up, I thought I heard something strange. A faint sound coming through our communication system. I turned to the young officer at the station. "What is that sound?" I asked. The officer listened. His face grew pale. "Princess, it is coming from the human world. They are broadcasting something. It sounds like music, children singing." I froze. For just a moment, the song touched something deep inside me. It reminded me of my mother long ago, before she died in the First War. She used to sing to me when I could not sleep. Her voice had been soft and warm, like a blanket against the cold of the world. I crushed the memory. I crushed the feeling. I was not a child anymore. I was a warrior, and I had made an oath. "Fire," I said. The great guns of the Crimson Sovereign opened up. The small blue world below us flashed white, then orange, then red. The song stopped. My officers cheered. Nissa did not cheer. Neither did I. I walked to my private chambers without a word. I closed the door behind me. I stood alone in the dim light, and I pressed my hands against the cold metal wall. I had done what I swore to do. The first human world had fallen. There would be many more. I should have felt victory. I should have felt justice. Instead, I felt nothing at all. No, that was a lie. I felt my mother's song somewhere inside my chest, and I hated myself for feeling it. I walked to the mirror in the corner of the room. The woman who looked back at me was tall and strong. Her silver skin glowed faintly in the dim light. Her eyes were cold and hard. Her hair fell around her shoulders like dark water. She looked like a warrior. She looked like a princess. She looked like a killer. "They took everything from me," I whispered to the woman in the mirror. "They deserve this, all of them, every last one." The woman in the mirror did not answer. She only stared back with eyes that looked more tired than they had looked that morning. A soft chime sounded at my door. It was Threx. "Princess," he said, "we have received word from our scouts. The humans are gathering their fleet at a system called Helios Reach. It is their largest shipyard. They are preparing to defend it with everything they have." I turned from the mirror. I picked up my ancestral blade. I strapped it to my side. "Then that is where we will go next," I said, "and that is where we will end them." Threx bowed and left. I stood alone in the quiet room, and I looked once more at the woman in the mirror. She did not look like peace. She did not look like anything my father would have wanted. But my father was dead, and the time for peace had died with him. I left my chambers and walked back to the command deck. My fleet turned toward Helios Reach, and the stars slid past us like tears falling into the dark. I did not know then that I was sailing toward the man who would change everything. I did not know that my oath would crack like glass in the months ahead. I did not know that the enemy I hated most was not human at all, but someone who walked among my own people, wearing the face of a friend. All I knew was rage, and the long road ahead, and the cold weight of Shavil against my hip. The stars did not warn me. The stars never do. The first human ship exploded in silence. I watched it happen from my command throne, my hands gripping the armrests until my knuckles turned pale. The great battle for Helios Reach had begun only minutes ago, and already the void between the stars was filled with fire and broken steel. My fleet moved like a great storm through the human defenses. 400 warships, each one armed with weapons that could crack planets. The humans had perhaps 150 ships to face us. The numbers did not favor them. The technology did not favor them. The tactics did not favor them. And yet they would not run. "Princess," Threx said from his station, "the humans are holding their line. They are not retreating." "Then we will push harder," I said. I gave the order for a full frontal assault. My tactical officers looked uncertain. Threx himself suggested a careful encirclement, a slow tightening of our forces around the human fleet. It was the wise choice. It was the careful choice. I wanted them to see me coming. I wanted them to know fear before they knew death. Forward, I said. All ships forward, full power. The Crimson Sovereign surged ahead, and the rest of the fleet followed. We struck the human line like a hammer striking glass. Ships shattered. Explosions bloomed in the dark like terrible flowers. For the first few minutes, it seemed the battle would be over quickly. Then the humans did something I had never seen before. A small human ship, already burning and broken, turned its engines to full power. It did not try to escape. Instead, it aimed itself directly at one of my largest cruisers, the Valorous Dawn. My tactical officer called out a warning. My gunners tried to shoot it down. But the human ship was too small, too fast, and the pilot flew it with a skill I did not know humans possessed. The burning ship struck the Valorous Dawn at the reactor core. The explosion was beautiful and terrible. 1,200 of my warriors were gone in a single breath. The Valorous Dawn broke into 3 pieces and drifted into the dark. I stared at the screens, unable to speak. No warrior of any sane race would do such a thing. To throw away his own life and his ship and his crew just to take a single enemy vessel with him. It was madness. It was waste. It was brilliant. Another one, Nissa said quietly. Princess, another human ship is doing the same thing. And another, and another. The humans were using their dying ships as weapons. Any vessel too damaged to fight became a guided missile aimed at our largest targets. My fleet was armored against enemy fire, but not against this. We had never needed to be. The battle turned in minutes. What should have been an easy victory became a desperate fight for survival. I watched a human medical ship, of all things, do something that my war colleges would have called impossible. The ship had no weapons. It was protected by galactic law from being a target. But as my boarding parties tried to capture it, the human captain vented all of the ship's oxygen into the docking corridors at the moment my warriors entered. Then he released a spark. The oxygen became fire. My boarding parties were lost. What kind of creatures are these? Threx whispered beside me. I did not have an answer. We fought on. I gave orders. My warriors obeyed. But for every ship we destroyed, the humans destroyed one of ours through some new and terrible trick. They hid behind asteroids and struck from shadows. They pretended to surrender and then fired their last weapons at point-blank range. They broadcast false distress calls to lure our rescue ships into traps. Through the chaos, I noticed something on my tactical display. A single human fighter had broken through our defensive screen. It was small, fast, and battered almost beyond use. The call sign of the pilot flashed on my screen in our translated text. Reaper Actual, the designation Valkyrie 9. The human fighter should have been destroyed 10 times over. My ace interceptors surrounded it. 12 of the finest pilots in my fleet, flying ships far more advanced than the human craft. The human pilot shot down 3 of them in less than a minute. I sat forward on my throne. My eyes did not leave the display. I had never seen anyone fly like this. The human pilot moved through my interceptors like water moving around stones. He did not fight by the rules my instructors had taught me. He did not fight by any rules at all. He simply flew and turned and fired and lived. He is heading directly for us, Nissa said. For the Crimson Sovereign, I asked. Yes, Princess, straight for our hangar bay. I stood up. I should have laughed. One human fighter alone against the largest warship ever built by my people. It was suicide. It was nothing. It was a bug flying at a mountain. But somehow I knew he would reach us. Close the hangar shields, I ordered. The shields are already closing, Princess, but the ship is moving at maximum speed. It will not stop in time. I watched on the display as the small human ship flew directly into the closing hangar of my flagship. The impact shook the entire vessel. Alarms began to sound throughout the ship. Damage reports flooded in. Hangar Bay 3 is burning, Threx said. Security teams are responding. Princess, the pilot survived the crash. He is out of his ship, he is armed, he is fighting through our security. A single man, on my ship, with thousands of my warriors aboard. Impossible, I said. Reports say he is moving toward the command deck, Threx continued. We have lost 6 guards already. He is heading this way, Princess. I drew Shavel from its sheath. The ancient blade hummed softly in my hand. Threx, take command of the battle. Nissa, hold the deck. Princess, you cannot go yourself. Send warriors, send a full squad, send 2 squads. No, I said, this one is mine. I walked off the command deck and into the long hallways of my flagship. My boots rang on the metal floor. My heart beat fast, but not with fear, with something else, something I did not have a name for yet. I found the human on the 3rd deck, in a long corridor near the weapons storage. 6 of my elite guards lay on the floor around him. He was wounded. Blood ran from a cut above his eye. One of his arms hung strangely at his side. He held a short blade in his good hand, a blade he must have taken from one of my guards. He was small by our standards, a full head shorter than me. His hair was dark, cut short. His eyes were the color of storm clouds. His face was marked with lines of pain and anger, but also with something else, something that almost looked like amusement. When he saw me, he smiled. Took you long enough, Princess, he said. I stopped in the middle of the corridor. Shavel felt warm in my hand. I had expected many things from this human. Begging, cursing, threats. I had not expected him to smile. You have fought well, I said. I will give you a warrior's death. That is kind of you, he said. Shall we begin? He raised his blade, I raised mine, and we fought. I had trained with the finest teachers in the galaxy. I had fought in 3 wars before my 19th year. I had never lost a duel in my life. I was faster than any human, stronger than any human, better trained than any human. And yet this man matched me. He fought like no one I had ever faced. His style was not clean or proper. He mixed 3 different fighting forms and broke the rules of all of them. He struck from strange angles. He used the walls and the floor as weapons. When I disarmed him once, he simply grabbed a broken piece of metal from the floor and kept fighting. We moved through 4 decks of my ship as we fought. I struck. He blocked. He struck. I dodged. Sparks flew where our blades met. My warriors tried to help me at first, but I waved them back. This was my battle. He was wounded. He was bleeding. He was exhausted. He should have been dead. But he kept fighting, and he kept smiling that strange smile. We ended in the observation dome at the top of the ship. The great window showed the battle raging in space around us. Ships burned. Lights flashed. The stars wheeled slowly as my flagship turned. I caught him off balance at last. I swept his leg. He fell. I put my blade to his throat. He did not beg. He did not close his eyes. Do it, he whispered, but answer me one thing first. I waited. Why did your people attack our refugee convoys at Procyon? The question struck me harder than any of his blows. Refugee convoys. Procyon was a far distant system. I had heard of no such attack. My people did not attack refugees. That was a sacred rule of our warfare. My father had written it into our military code himself. My confusion must have shown on my face because the human's eyes changed. The anger in them softened. He looked at me for a long moment. You do not know, he said quietly. By my stars, you do not know. A great shaking ran through the ship. New alarms sounded. A hidden human fleet had arrived. My battle was turning worse. I had a choice. Kill this man and lose more ships while I stood in this room, or take him with me and save my fleet. I should have killed him. My oath demanded it. Instead, I struck him with the heavy end of Shavel. He fell unconscious at my feet. Guards, I called. Take this prisoner to the brig, keep him alive. I want him questioned later. Questioned? That was the word I told myself. The truth was something different, something I could not yet face. I returned to the command deck. I ordered a fighting retreat. We lost 70 ships before we escaped the system. My fleet limped back to neutral space, broken and shamed. And in the brig below, a human man slept, while the questions he had asked me grew louder and louder in my mind. Procyon refugee convoys. My people had broken their own sacred rules. Or someone had wanted the humans to believe we had. The human had a name, Marcus Kane. I learned it on the third day after the battle, when I finally went down to the brig to see him. My ship was limping toward a hidden rally point far from any world. My fleet had lost more than my pride could bear. The council back home was sending messages, demanding answers. I had not replied to any of them yet. I told myself I went to the brig because I needed information. That was what I told Nissa. That was what I told Threx. That was what I told myself. The brig was quiet. Only one cell was occupied. Marcus Kane sat on the simple bench inside it, his back against the wall. He looked better than he had in the corridor. My medical team had treated his wounds, bandaged his arm, cleaned his face. He was still bruised, but he was alive. He looked up when I entered. He did not stand. He did not bow. He simply watched me with those storm cloud eyes. "Princess," he said, "I was wondering when you would come." "Captain Kane," I said. "You have my file then." "I have your file, 28 years old, 17 battle decorations, one of the finest pilots in your human fleet, a younger sister, parents still living on Earth." His face changed when I mentioned his sister. A shadow crossed it. "My sister is not on Earth," he said quietly. "My sister was on one of the refugee convoys at Procyon." I stood very still. The cell was small. The air between us felt heavy. "Tell me about Procyon," I said. "Why should I?" "Because I do not know what happened there, and I want to know." He studied my face for a long time. I do not know what he saw, but at last he nodded and he began to speak. "6 months ago," he said, "a colony on Procyon 4 came under attack. Pirates at first, we thought. They burned the farms. They destroyed the main city. The people who survived, about 40,000 of them, were loaded onto 5 large transport ships. Those ships were told to fly to a safer colony on the edge of our territory." He paused. I waited. The transports never arrived. Halfway through the journey they were attacked, not by pirates, by warships, big ones, Kethric's warships. The transports had no weapons. They had no escort strong enough to resist. They were destroyed in minutes. 40,000 civilians, old people, children, my sister who was a teacher traveling with her students, all of them gone. His voice did not shake, but his eyes did. "That is what started this war, Princess. Not our refusal of your annexation offer. Not any insult we offered your people. The attack on Procyon, your ships on our refugees. That is why we fight." I sat down slowly on the bench outside his cell. My legs did not want to hold me anymore. "Marcus," I said. His name felt strange in my mouth. "My people do not attack refugees. It is written in our deepest law. My father himself wrote that law." "I know what was done, Princess. We have the records. We have the survivors. 6 people lived through the attack pulled from the wreckage. They all say the same thing. Kethric's warships, Kethric's markings, Kethric's weapons." "Then someone has broken our law. Someone I must find." He looked at me differently then. The anger in his eyes faded just a little. "You really did not know." "I did not know." We sat in silence for a while. 2 warriors on opposite sides of a war, separated by the bars of a cell, with a terrible truth sitting in the space between us. I visited him the next day, and the day after that, and the day after that. I told myself it was for interrogation, but we did not speak of tactics. We did not speak of fleets or weapons or battle plans. We spoke of other things. He told me about Earth. He described blue oceans that covered most of the surface, white clouds that drifted across a sky of bright blue. He told me about mountains and forests and small villages where people lived simple lives. He told me about music, and about a thing humans called humor, which made people laugh. He laughed himself when he tried to explain it, because he said humor did not work well when you had to explain it. I told him about Vesari Prime. I described the silver towers of our capital, the great libraries that held 10,000 years of our history, the gardens where my mother had taught me to read when I was small. I told him about the two moons that hung in our sky, one red and one gold. Slowly, a strange thing began to happen. I stopped seeing him as a human. I started seeing him as Marcus, a person, a man who had lost his sister and was very far from home. And I think, slowly, he stopped seeing me as an enemy princess. He began to see me as Valera. On the 7th day, I brought him better food from the officer's kitchen. On the 10th day, I brought him a book from my personal library, a history of my people translated into his language. On the 15th day, I opened his cell door. "Walk with me," I said. He walked with me. Nissa watched us go by with a strange look on her face. I did not stop to explain. I took him to the observation dome where we had fought. The great window showed the stars, quiet now, no ships burning in the dark. He stood beside me and looked out at the emptiness. "I have been searching," I said, "in my private intelligence channels, records that only I and my father and a few trusted advisors can see. And, Marcus, the attack on your refugees, it was done by my people, but the orders were forged. They did not come from my father. They did not come from me. They did not come from any true authority of my government." He turned to look at me. "Then who?" "I do not know yet, but I have found other things too, other patterns, orders that my father refused to give, which were given anyway. Small attacks on your colonies that were blamed on rogue captains. The deaths of advisors who argued for peace with your people. Someone has been working for years to push us into this war. Someone inside my own government." I stopped. My hands were shaking. I gripped the railing beneath the great window. "Marcus, I think the same person who killed those refugees also killed my father. I think the attack on my home world, the attack that started this whole war, was not done by your people at all. I think it was done by one of mine, who then blamed you for it." He was silent for a long time. "Who?" he finally asked. "I cannot prove it yet, but I have my suspicions. There is a man, my father's oldest advisor, Lord Vorthak. He opposed my father's peace efforts for many years. He has grown powerful since my father's death. Every change in policy since my father died has served his interests. Every new war order has come from his desk. And this Vorthak would do all this, kill your own emperor, start a war that has killed millions. I do not want to believe it, but the pieces fit too well." I turned away from the window. I could not look at the stars anymore. Each one of them seemed to be watching me, judging me. "Marcus, I have burned your worlds. I have ordered the deaths of your people. I have sworn an oath I cannot break to hunt you all to extinction. And now I learn that everything I believed was a lie. My whole war, my whole vengeance. A lie built on the body of my own father, killed by a man who still serves in my court." I did not realize I was crying until he put his hand on my shoulder. His human hand, warm, a little rough, so small compared to my own. "Valera," he said. It was the first time he had called me by my name. I turned to him. I did not know what to say. He looked up at me. This small human man, this enemy, this prisoner who had every reason in the galaxy to hate me. "Valera, listen to me. You did not know, now you know. The question is not what has been done. The question is what you will do next." "I do not know what to do." "Yes, you do. I think you have always known. You just did not have the information until now." I looked at him for a long time, really looked at him. I saw his tired eyes. I saw the marks on his face that I had put there. I saw the kindness that he had no reason to offer me but offered anyway. And I felt something crack open inside me. Something old and hard and angry, which had been sitting in my chest since the day my father died. It cracked, and light poured through the cracks. I went to my knees in front of him. I, Princess Valera of the Kethrix, who had never knelt to anyone but my father, knelt before a human prisoner on the floor of my own flagship. "Marcus Kane," I said, "I beg your forgiveness for what I have done to you, for what I have done to your people, for what I have done to your sister. I have no right to ask, but I am asking." He looked down at me. His eyes were wet. He went to his knees as well, so that we were facing each other on the cold metal floor. "We have both lost family to this lie, Valera. The forgiveness is not mine alone to give, but for my part, for what was done to me and mine, I forgive you, and I ask you to help me stop the one who is truly behind all of this. I will, I swear it. On my father's name, on my mother's song, on every star in the sky, I will help you end this. I will help you stop Vorthak, and I will stand beside your people against my own if I must, until the truth is known and the guilty pay for what they have done." He took my hand, my silver hand so much larger than his. And in that quiet moment, on the floor of my flagship, the war between our peoples ended for me. Something else began, something I had no name for, something that my warrior training had never prepared me to face. I did not know what to call it yet, but I knew, with a certainty deeper than any oath I had ever sworn, that I would never again raise my blade against Marcus Kane, or against his people, or against anyone who fought for the truth. The stars outside the window wheeled slowly on. My fleet drifted in its hidden place, waiting for orders that I had not yet given. Soon I would give those orders, and when I did, the galaxy would shake. I made my decision in the quiet hours of the night, alone in my private chamber. I could not return to the capital, not yet. Vorthak would kill me the moment my ship translated into the home system. He would have his agents waiting. He would have his stories ready. I would die a traitor's death, and my crew would die with me, and Marcus would die, and the war would go on until humanity was no more. So I would not go home as he expected. I would come as something he did not expect. I would come as the one thing he had never planned for. I would come for him. I called Threx and Nissa to my private chamber. I asked Marcus to join us as well. The three of them stood around the small table in the center of the room, and I laid out what I knew. I showed them the forged orders. I showed them the records of ships sent to Procyon. I showed them the pattern of deaths among my father's true friends, all of them dying of strange illnesses or sudden accidents over the past 2 years. I showed them everything. Nissa's face grew hard as she looked through the evidence. Her hand moved to the blade at her hip. "This man killed your father." "I believe so." "Then he dies." "Nissa, it will mean civil war. Half of our military answers to Vorthak now. The council itself is likely with him. If we move against him, we will be called traitors. We may lose." "We will not lose," Nissa said simply, "because we will be right." I looked at Threx. He was harder to predict. Threx was a man of duty and rules. He served the throne, not the person on it. I expected him to argue against me. I expected him to warn me of the dangers. I expected him, perhaps, to report me to the council the moment he left the room. He stood in silence for a long time. Then he asked one question. "Princess, would your father have wanted this war with the humans?" I did not have to think about my answer. No, he spent the last years of his life trying to prevent it. "Then your father's killer must answer for what he has done," Threx said, "and the war must end. My blade is yours, princess." I almost wept. Instead, I gave him a warrior's nod, the deepest respect one of my people could offer another. Marcus watched us through all of this. When we had finished, he spoke. "I will help you however I can, but Valera, you need to think carefully. Once you begin this, you cannot stop. Your own people will call you a traitor. Some of them will try to kill you. The council will turn against you. You will be alone, more alone than you can imagine." "I will not be alone," I said. "I will have my shield sister. I will have my second in command. I will have the warriors who still loved my father, and I will have you. You will have me, for whatever that is worth." "It is worth everything, Marcus." We prepared for 3 days. I sent secret messages to the old captains of the fleet, the ones who had served under my father for decades. Most of them agreed to meet with me. Some of them pledged their ships to my cause. 12 warships joined us at a hidden rally point in the deep dark, ships whose captains still believed in the old ways, in the sacred laws my father had written. 13 ships, against Vorthak's hundreds. It would have to be enough. I brought one more person into our plan, War Priest Kalox, who had served my family for 4 generations. He was very old, older than anyone else in the fleet, and he was bound by sacred oaths to the royal line. I was not sure whether those oaths would make him side with me or with Vorthak, who now sat closer to the throne than I did. I brought him the evidence myself. I showed him what I had shown the others. Kalox read it all in silence. His wrinkled hands trembled as he turned the pages. When he was done, he closed his ancient eyes. And then he wept. My people only weep once in our lifetime, at our deepest grief. It is not a thing we share often. To see Kalox weep was to see an old mountain shake. "Your father was my friend," he whispered. "He was the finest emperor our people ever had. And this creature, this Vorthak, drank wine at his table and all the while was planning his death." He stood up. He drew a small ceremonial blade from his robes and cut a thin line across his palm. He let the golden blood drip onto my table. "I bless this cause," he said. "I bless your blade, I bless your war. Vorthak dies for what he has done." 3 days later, we moved. Our 13 ships translated into the outer defense zone of the home system. The alarm spread through Vorthak's forces within seconds, but we had not come in secret. We had come loudly. On every channel, on every frequency, I broadcast the truth. My voice, for the first time since my father's death, went out to all my people. I told them everything. I showed them the evidence. I named Vorthak as my father's killer. I called on every captain, every soldier, every warrior of the Kethrix to join me in ending the lie that had driven us into war. The response was not what Vorthak expected. Half of his fleet hesitated. A third of them turned their ships toward ours. Only a portion stayed loyal to him. But that portion was still larger than our own force, and Vorthak struck fast. The battle for the home system lasted 11 days. I will not speak of every moment of those days. The space above my world became a graveyard of ships. Many warriors I had known since childhood fell in that battle. Many worlds hid in fear while fleets clashed above them. But I will tell of the moments that mattered most. Marcus fought beside me through all of it. Not in a human ship because we did not have one, but on the bridge of the Crimson Sovereign itself. He studied my people's tactics. He offered advice. His human mind saw patterns my officers missed. More than once, his suggestions saved hundreds of lives. At first, my warriors looked at him with hatred. A human on our flagship during a battle against our own people. It was an insult beyond measure, but Marcus did not ask for their respect. He earned it. During a boarding attack on the 5th day, an enemy soldier broke through our defenses and charged at Nyssa from behind. She did not see him. Marcus did. He ran between them and took the blow meant for her. It was not a killing wound, but it was bad. He fell, and Nyssa turned just in time to strike the enemy down. When she saw Marcus lying on the floor, bleeding in her place, her face changed forever. She carried him to the medical bay herself. After that day, no one on the ship questioned his presence. On the 7th day, we lost 4 ships in a single hour. The civil war was turning against us. Vorthak had more resources than we had believed. He had built a private fleet over the years, hidden from the official records, paid for with money taken from my father's treasury. On the 9th day, we learned the location of Vorthak himself. He had retreated to the old palace on Vesari Prime. He had gathered his most loyal warriors around him. He was preparing to make his final stand in the very throne room where my father had died. On the 10th day, we struck. We brought our remaining ships down through the atmosphere. Marcus flew one of our small fighters beside me. Nyssa led the ground forces. Kalox blessed each warrior before we boarded the landing craft. We fought through the outer gates of the palace. We fought through the gardens where my mother had once taught me to read. We fought through the great halls where I had played as a child. With every step, my heart beat harder and my blade grew heavier in my hand. We reached the throne room at last. Vorthak stood on the steps of the obsidian throne, my father's throne, my throne. He was dressed in full battle armor, and he held his own ancestral blade in his hand. 100 guards stood around him, the finest warriors he had left. He smiled when he saw me. "Princess," he said, "you have come home. I have come for you, Vorthak." His eyes moved to Marcus, standing at my side. "And you have brought your pet human. How touching." I did not answer. I simply walked forward with Marcus at my side, and the guards between us parted like water around stones as we advanced. Some of them refused to fight. Others fell to our blades. By the time we reached the steps, only Vorthak remained. He descended to meet us. He was 3 times my age and one of the greatest warriors our people had ever produced. He had taught my father how to fight, long ago, before he had become a killer of emperors. We fought him together, Marcus and I. There was no honor in such a fight, not by the old rules. I did not care about those rules anymore. I cared about ending the lie. Vorthak was faster than I expected. He drove us back across the throne room. He struck Marcus in the shoulder with the flat of his blade, then turned his sword and came at me. I parried, barely. He had 1,000 years of bloody experience, and he used every moment of it. He saw an opening. He drove his blade toward my chest in a strike I could not block in time. Marcus saw it before I did. He threw himself between us. The blade pierced his body. I heard my own voice cry out, a sound I did not know I could make. Vorthak's face lit up with pleasure at the sight. I did not remember the next few moments. I remembered only moving, fast, faster than I had ever moved. My blade rose and fell and rose again. Vorthak tried to block. He did not succeed. The weight of all my rage came down in a single strike, and Vorthak's body fell to the stone floor of my father's throne room. I did not care about Vorthak. I turned to Marcus. He lay on the floor, his eyes looking up at me, his breath shallow. Red blood, so bright against my silver hand as I pressed it against his wound. I shouted for Kalox. I shouted for the medics. I begged Marcus to stay with me in every language I knew. He smiled up at me, blood on his teeth. "Worth it," he whispered. His eyes closed. Marcus did not die. For 23 days, I barely left his side. The medical team fought to save him. Kalox used every ancient healing art my people knew. Marcus went through 3 surgeries, 2 moments where his heart stopped and had to be started again, 1 long fever that burned through him for 5 days without end. Through all of it, I sat beside his bed. I held his small human hand in my large silver one. I talked to him even when he could not hear me. I told him about my day. I told him about the news from the Empire. I told him about the strange new peace being made between our peoples. I told him anything I could think of to fill the silence, to reach through the dark where he was wandering and call him back to the light. On the 23rd day, he opened his eyes. "Valera," he said, his voice weak but clear. I held his hand tighter. I could not speak for a long moment. "You stayed," he said. Of course I stayed. I was dreaming. I dreamed of blue oceans, and I dreamed of you walking beside me on a white beach. I did not know if I was dying or living. "You are living, Marcus. You are going to live." He smiled. It was the same smile I had seen that first day in the corridor, when he had fallen wounded and surrounded by my guards and still had the strange bravery to greet me with humor. It was the smile that had begun to change everything for me, even before I knew it was changing. The days that followed were busy ones. I was crowned Empress of the Kethric's dominion in a ceremony that was smaller and quieter than the old tradition required. I did not want great crowds. I did not want celebration. Too many had fallen to bring me to that throne. I wore the crown of my father as I had seen him wear it, and I took the oaths of office in the quiet of the rebuilt throne room, where the stains of Vorthak's end had been scrubbed from the stone. My first act as Empress was to end the war. I sent formal messages to the human government on Earth. I confessed, in the name of my people, to the wrongs done by Vorthak and those who served him. I offered full reparations for the attacks on human worlds. I offered the return of all prisoners. I offered trade agreements, diplomatic relations, and a full and lasting peace. Humanity was suspicious. They had good reason to be. For many weeks the talks went nowhere. Human leaders demanded proof. They demanded justice. They demanded guarantees. Marcus, from his hospital bed, made a recording and sent it to his own government. He told them what he had seen. He told them what Vorthak had done. He told them that he trusted the new Empress of the Ketheriks with his own life, and that humanity could trust her too. His voice carried weight. He was a decorated officer respected across human space. The talks began to move. A year after the Civil War ended, the Treaty of the Silver Oak was signed in orbit above a neutral world. I signed it in my own hand. The human leader signed it in his. Our peoples were at peace for the first time in 3 years. Marcus was at my side throughout the signing. He walked with a slight limp now, which he would always have, the only lasting mark of Vorthak's blade. He wore his human dress uniform, the blue and gold of his people's fleet. He looked very small standing beside my tall silver frame, but he stood proud, and he did not seem small to me at all. After the treaty, he did not return to Earth. He came home with me instead. The court was shocked. My advisors were shocked. My own family, those who remained, were shocked. A human living in the imperial palace. A human walking beside the Empress. A human who would be my companion for the years to come. I did not care about their shock. I had lost too much and fought too hard to care what anyone thought. We built something new, Marcus and I, not all at once. Slowly, over months and then years. We built an understanding between our peoples. We opened trade routes. We started exchange programs where young humans came to study on our worlds and young Ketheriks went to study on Earth. We built a joint fleet with human and Ketheriks warriors serving side by side to defend both empires from any new threat. There were problems. Of course there were problems. Old hatreds do not die in a day. Some of my people still whispered about my choice to let a human into my life. Some humans still did not trust me. There were incidents. There were arguments. There were a few small violent events in the early years that we had to put down quickly. But overall, slowly, surely, peace became real. It became the new way of things. 5 years after the end of the war, on a quiet evening in the rebuilt palace at Visari Prime, Marcus and I stood on the high balcony that looked out over the Silver City. The red moon and the gold moon hung in the sky. The air smelled of the night flowers my mother had once planted in the gardens far below. I had never asked him the question that had been sitting in my heart all these years. I was afraid to ask it. I do not know what I was afraid of. But on that night with the 2 moons above us, I finally asked, "Marcus, why did you do it?" He turned to me. "Which part?" "All of it. Why did you forgive me? Why did you help me? Why did you step in front of Vorthak's blade for me? After everything my people did to yours, after everything I myself did to you. Why?" He was quiet for a long time. He looked out over the Silver City. The lights of 1,000 homes twinkled in the valley below, humans and Ketheriks living side by side in the new districts we had built together. "Because somewhere along the way," he said finally, "I realized you were just a person who had been lied to by someone she trusted, a person who, when she learned the truth, did the hardest thing anyone could do. She turned against her own people to stop the wrong that had been done. She risked everything, her throne, her life, her honor, to make things right." He turned to face me. "That is not an enemy, Valera. That is the best kind of friend a person could have. The kind who does the right thing even when it costs her everything. That is the kind of person I want in my life. That is the kind of person I want at my side." He paused. He took a breath. He looked very small and very brave standing there on the balcony. "And maybe more than at your side, if you will have me." I did not answer with words. I bent down, and I took his face in my hands, and I kissed him under the red moon and the gold moon. My second heart beat so hard in my chest that I thought it would burst right out of me. His small, warm hands came up to my face, and his storm cloud eyes closed, and we stood there together for a long time. When I pulled back, he was smiling. So was I. It was the first real smile I had worn since the day my father died. Many years have passed since that night. I am older now by the measure of my people. My silver hair has streaks of white in it, like the first snow falling on dark water. My hands are not as quick as they once were, but my mind is still sharp, and my second heart still beats, and my empire is still at peace. Marcus grew old beside me, his human years catching him faster than my Kethric's ones, but he lived every day of them as my partner and my equal. He walked through the great halls of the palace with his slight limp and his quick smile. He sat at my side in the council. He advised me in matters of state. He played with our children in the gardens. He grew a garden of his own, full of plants from earth, which he tended with his own hands long after his hair had turned gray. Our children. Yes, that was the greatest surprise of all. The geneticists had said it would not be possible. They had said our species were too different. They had been wrong. Our first child was born 7 years after the treaty, a daughter with her father's storm cloud eyes and her mother's silver skin. We called her Alara. 2 more came after her, a son and another daughter, each one a miracle, each one a bridge between 2 peoples. They lead both species now, our children, in the joint council that governs the peace between us. Alara sits on my throne as my chosen heir. Her brother commands the joint fleet. Her sister runs the great schools where humans and Kethric's learn side by side. They are neither fully human nor fully Kethric's. They are something new. They are the future. Marcus passed from this life 3 years ago in the quiet of our bedroom with me holding his hand. He was very old by then. His human years had run their course. He went peacefully in his sleep with a small smile on his face. I sat beside him until the last breath left his body, and I sang him the lullaby my mother used to sing me when I was small. I do not know if he heard it. I hope he did. I grieve him every day. I will grieve him until my own time comes, which will not be many years from now. But I do not grieve without hope. Because of him, because of what we built together, both our peoples go on. Both our peoples live in peace. Both our peoples send their children into the stars, not to conquer or to kill, but to explore, to learn, to build new worlds together. I broke the oath of Talvorin long ago. It was a sacred promise. It was a blood pact that could not be broken without death. My people wrote it 10,000 years ago in the time of the first emperor. No one who broke it had ever lived to see the next dawn. And yet here I am, old, tired, still alive. I have thought about it often over the years. How did I break the oath and live? Why did the old magic of my people not claim me the way it claimed everyone else who had sworn it and failed? I think now that perhaps I did not break the oath at all. I swore to destroy humans, and I did destroy them. I destroyed the idea of them as my enemy. I destroyed the lies that made our peoples hate each other. I destroyed the version of myself that could have ever seen them as less than us. I destroyed the war between us, every bit of it, every piece of hatred and fear and ignorance that kept us apart. In the end, I did what I swore to do, just not the way I had imagined I would. The humans have an old saying, which Marcus taught me in the first year we spent together. He wrote it on a piece of paper and gave it to me as a gift. I still have that paper, yellowed and fragile now, in a small frame beside my bed. It says, in his handwriting in the language of his people, "The best way to defeat your enemy is to make him your friend." I laughed when I first read it. I thought it was a soft thing to say. I thought it was a weakness. Now I know it is the deepest strength any civilization can ever possess. And it is the reason why humanity, mad, brave, impossible humanity, will one day walk among every star in this galaxy. Not as conquerors, not as destroyers, but as friends, bringing light into dark places, bringing peace into old quarrels, bringing hope into hopeless worlds. I am only grateful that I lived long enough to walk beside them. I am only grateful that I got to call one of them my husband. I am only grateful that my children carry both bloodlines in their veins, and that they will carry our story forward long after I am gone. Stars outside my window are turning now, as they have turned every night of my long life. Somewhere out there, a young Kethrix captain is working together with a human navigator to chart a new world. Somewhere out there, human children are learning our language and Kethrix children are learning theirs. Somewhere out there, the work that Marcus and I began is being carried forward by hands we will never meet, into a future brighter than anything I could have dreamed on the day I swore my oath of vengeance. I set my pen down now. My memoir is done. This is the last thing I will write in this life. If any future reader finds these words, let them know this one truth, the deepest truth I learned in all my long years. Hatred is easy. Any fool can hate. Any frightened child can swear an oath of vengeance. Love is hard. Forgiveness is harder. Choosing to see the truth when a lie would be much easier is the hardest thing of all. But it is the only thing worth doing. And if a silver princess from a proud old empire, who once swore to destroy a species, can come to love one of them and be loved in return, and build a peace that has now lasted longer than the war that came before it, then there is no quarrel in the galaxy that cannot be ended. There is no enemy who cannot become a friend. There is no dark that cannot be turned into light. Marcus, my love, I will see you soon. Save a place for me beside you. I am coming home. The stars are waiting. And so at last am I.